Okay. So how are you?
I'm doing well.
Oh, that's good.
Doing well.
Okay, how's your holiday?
Yeah, it's good. I've been doing a lot of work in the yard, which has sort of been quite satisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah, bit of sunburn, but nothing too crazy.
That's good. Lots of vitamin D, is it?
Yeah, well, I sort of need it, I think.
Mm.
No, it's been good. Just doing a lot of cleaning up and getting rid of rubbish and stuff like that. So
Yeah, yeah. Spring clean in the winter, in the summer.
spring clean in the summer. Yep, bit behind the times.
Yeah.
So what's been on your mind? Anything exciting at all? Or no?
No, sorry, still trying to wake up. Yeah. What about you? You reading anything interesting?
No, I haven't been really. I've sort of just been working out in the yard and making myself tired and
Okay.
going to bed and sleeping. It's good to go to bed physically tired.
Yeah, I do every day these days, but I don't know, it's a bit of physical and mental, but definitely physical as well. I get very, very tired.
How's the pain? Is it subsiding or still?
Yeah, no, it has. Yeah, the one in the thigh. I put some of those pain pads on. I think the last time we spoke.
Oh yeah, you're going to do that.
Yeah, and that immediately helped with the pain. Okay.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it was. The issue with the right calf muscle, still got to get to the bottom of that. Just walk 100 meters and it even less, and it just goes up. And
do you need to sort of do some stretching or something?
Yeah, it's interesting because when you touch it like I am right now, I mean, it's not like, when you stretch your calf muscle because you've overused it or something, or you get a cramp or something in it, it gets very hard. Okay. And mine is always very soft, even when it is very painful. Anyway, I'm not sure. I had an interesting discussion about the pain, this morning with Michelle. She's the Get Set Up person that I persuaded to do classes. Okay, because she's a healer, and she's into everything to do with life cycles and energy points and chakras and other things, Reiki and so on. And but she said an interesting thing, and that's and before you ask, no, I haven't done any further with the life cycles.
It's all good. It's all good.
She said to me, that if you have pain in your left leg, it's related to your past life. If you have pain in your right leg, it's related to your future life. Okay, which I didn't know. Okay. And she said, he said, in addition, your life cycle, you end in, as are you end in a 9-year cycle. So you're going to be, by the end of this year, when your birthday comes up, she says, you're going to be starting a new cycle. And there's definitely, you make a lot of resistance to what is coming up because the pain's in your right leg. Okay. And quite severely. And I then told her about I don't know when, what is the Sunday? We last spoke on Wednesday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would have been, yeah. Then you don't know that I had a hell of an issue with Get Set Up. Okay.
Oh, did you?
I lost my temper.
Mm.
Okay. I lost my temper and I shouted at them. Okay. And because what they had done, what they were intending to do, okay, and which it would have disadvantaged me immensely, okay, and would have put me in a lot less income, and I can't afford that. Okay, we need the income, especially that Sue's Chinese income has dribbled now to virtually nothing because of the Chinese government, and so I got fed up. Then the next day, that was probably Thursday, okay. And then the next day, I got an email from somebody in Get It Up that I'd never heard of, telling me that I have to do new content on every one of my classes every day. I said, that's impossible. Okay, that's absolutely impossible. You can't tell me that. Okay, and it was an email, so I had to respond, but I was angry when I responded. Thought, well, they can't, do it the way that we had a fight the day before. Now they're going to try and do this because they know that I can't do 12 new contents a week.
Every week, goodness.
Every week, yeah. They want 12 new content. This woman that I don't know who she is, and I still to this day don't know who she is because I replied to her on Friday. I was angry, saying, I don't know who. I said, first of all, I said to her, please introduce yourself, okay? And then, for a year now, I have not had to do that, and I don't get paid for it either. Okay? And I intend staying with the way that I do, which I do 3 new lessons, totally new content every week, and the other 9 are repeat. And I say I tweak the other 9. They might have little bits based on them and so on, little few changes and so on. And I copied everybody in that bloody organization. Okay, so yeah, that was definitely about my future, about my right leg, and about my cycle coming to an end, and a new one starting to overlap, starting to want to emerge, I guess. So I think Michelle's absolutely convinced that's where the pain comes from. And she also said, I jotted it down here this morning, and she says, your thigh also represents fear and vulnerability. Okay, and there was fear in that when they wanted to do that. Yeah, I was feared losing my income and my life changing.
They're a bit of a funny old organization in some ways, aren't they? The way they just seem to make these unilateral sort of decisions out of the blue. It just seems quite strange.
A few months ago, I was talking to Natalie, the guide in Eastern Australia who's does exercises, and she says, she's traveled a lot, and she said to me, I never ever historically have trusted an Indian. Okay, so they don't keep to their word, they lie, and they're very domineering. Okay, and those were her words. Okay, which I then had said to Sue after that conversation. That was exactly my attitude with the Indians in South Africa. Okay, they'll do anything to do you down and under and take money away from you. And so I also had that situation. So maybe I'm dealing with the prejudice as well. Maybe some karmic issues And as Michelle says as well this morning, she said, you've got to have faith in God. You've got to trust God that there's a plan and these things are there. She was using my own words that I used on her last time. She's been through a hell of a tough life. Okay, she's 50 years old now and been through a hell of a tough life. But and I said to her then also, when you look back, you're now at this stage of your life, you've got a good job. She's a data analyst, and you've got a really good healing faculty going on, privately on your own. And she said, so all that has brought you here to today. So she reminded me about what I said to her. Yeah. So I guess that's it. I sort of sense that something is happening, whether it's a total change within Get Set Up for me. Maybe it's a change for the better with Get Set Up. Maybe
so all of those management representatives, in Australia, are they all gone, are they? Or?
We have nothing to do with them. They're all engineers, internet engineers, all of them.
Well, wasn't one of them a lawyer or something?
Yeah, that's right. No, he left a long time ago. He also packed up a few months ago, and he was replaced by somebody else who was an engineer or something, and we haven't heard a single word from him. And so but we're not hearing from anybody. We're not even hearing from our little girlie who's supposed to support us in India. Okay. And then, we had our technical assistants in our classes swapped out with some little young Indian girlies who were quite honestly pathetic. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of last week, without any knowledge, our Pakistani guys that we liked before that, they suddenly returned. And nobody tells us, there's no communication. I'm okay with no communication now. I wasn't to start with, I really wasn't. But now, I'm allowed to get on with my life. Freedom, I do the classes I want to do, I do the topics I want to do, nobody checks them, nobody asks about them. They have to be in on a certain day, or make sure they are, and that works. But of course, at the end of January, they paid me 2 weeks late, finally. They should pay you in the end of the first week. So I had a lot of stress and strain and threats. I had, all sorts of things that was going on there to try and get my money. But I'm telling you that, I think, again, because I did tell you that last week, but was the fact that of what Michelle said, that there's something phasing out, in that final year. Then new stuff will come, and then of course when the new stuff comes, there's that first year is one of a hell of a challenge, and so on, before you reach maybe your third, fourth, fifth year, which would be probably satisfying. So the next 2 years and starting now and I'm usually up to that sort of challenge. I don't have issues with that. Historically, when I look back at my graph, at my Excel sheet, and I can see those number 1 years and the things that I've started and how things have moved on. And usually been quite dramatic, quite different. So in a way, I'm looking forward to what the next year is going to bring with regards to Get Set Up, but also with regards to nanonutrients, that multi-level marketing company with this new product. My products, soon my products have arrived. They sent products to everybody who wanted to be co-founding members, and but they haven't. The company hasn't launched yet, so work being done, some training being done. That's about all. So, I know that's scheduled to be launched probably, somewhere in February. They haven't given us a date yet. So we'll see.
Okay, that's interesting.
There's something to do with that. Yeah. Also, with Michelle's encouragement too. She said, get back to picking up something artistic. Do something. So after the conversation this morning, I went to the fun room and I drew a figure 8 on an A3 piece of, and I wrote across it with a what do you call these Koki pen, with like a highlighter pen.
Yeah.
And I wrote there, embrace darkness with light. And I wrote across the 8. And then, of course, when I turn it sideways, the 8 is infinity, but 8 is my life number. I did that really just to remind myself, because as Michelle reminded me, he said, an 8, you can't fail with whatever you do. And said, okay. And but then you turn it sideways and it's got another story when it becomes an infinity symbol. And historically, when I started something, I haven't failed. But I have failed with some of them during the process. After about year 3 or 4, I have failed instead of reaching my peak. And I have failed, but I've got good ideas why. So we'll see what comes.
And are you intending to get back into your artwork, or?
I am, but I'm not sure how at the moment.
Just the time. Yeah.
No, it's time done, is an excuse. It's a reason for not doing it. And it's a lie. Yes, I do. I spend all my time. I do 24/7 and prepare, but at any time, I can, like this afternoon, I was pretty well up to date with my research and so on. I've just got to do Friday next week, and the other days are all done. And I was just so tired, and also sort of thinking about my future. I thought that I just went and lay down. And usually I only do a cat nap. Today I said, Lord, if you want me to sleep, let me sleep. And he smacked me and let me sleep. Sleep. So yeah, I'm feeling better for the sleep too. So now I think, Don, that one, if I just build it into my time zones, then I do it. I make an appointment to do it. And when it comes to mental work, the first half of the day it has to happen on the first half of the day. Then I start becoming less compass mentis. I start waning a bit, and I start getting tired. I can still force myself to do work, whatever that is. In the sense of I can water the plants, or I can grow some greens, or whatever. And I think part of the process, did I tell you, I'm not sure if they told me that before my Wednesday meeting with you last week, that they took away all of my 8 plant classes. I think I told you that. Yeah.
Yeah, they were proposing it or something. Yeah.
And hardly they propose it in a way you can't say no. You can't. Okay, absolutely. And they say it's all about an attendance, and your attendance on those classes has been falling. And we've got to start new subjects. So ever since then, whenever that was last week, probably Tuesday then, I've been hard at it, new content, new classes, and things like that, totally new subjects.
It's a strange way to do it, though, isn't it? In one sense, like, I mean, it's impossible for you to predict, what attendance is going to be like, because there's so many variables involved in it.
Yeah, and also what they've done now across the world, there are many classes at the same time. Okay, so yeah, mine might be 9 a.m. Here in Perth, but elsewhere in the world, there are times that clash with my 9 a.m. Okay, it might be the evening in America or somewhere. Okay, it might be an early or a later class from the East Coast. So there's a lot of, I mean, you often have perhaps, I mean, I was looking sometimes 9 classes starting at the same time. But also it wasn't truthful. You see, when they just said globally, just all your classes are losing attendance. I mean, I've never lost attendance, and the day that they spoke to me as well, I had one of those classes. So how to grow microgreens. Okay. I've always had the acceptable number in a class, and then that same day I had that acceptable number again. But I decided, just take them all out, the whole lot, and then I discovered on Saturday that there was one that was, just because of the name, I didn't remember it as a plant. But when I came to start, there was another one that I said, maintaining your health. And so I changed the entire content from that, away from plants. Yeah. So
we don't really need that, do you? We don't need that, that's for sure.
God thinks I do. Okay.
And, well,
and gives me a chance to, act with it and interact with it. Another interesting thing that Michelle said, I don't know if you've ever heard the expression that she used in relation to karma. You just get it right. She said, it's time for you to rest and fall back on your karma.
Rest and fall back. No, I haven't heard that before.
I've never heard of that. I said to you, what do you mean? Okay. Said, over the many past years, you have accumulated good karma. Okay. Now you must expect payback time. Okay. From that good karma.
Okay.
That is so interesting, don't you think?
It is.
Yeah. And I said, that's, yeah. I said, well, how do I do it? And he said, one of the things you do, you go to sleep, you go to bed, and before you go to sleep, say to the universe, what do I need to know? That's it. First, that's all. Okay. And he said, you will get that, but also, meditate and start taking some me time that is outside of anything related to work. Okay. And that in itself will then start attracting some of the benefits of the good karma that you have dished out, let's say, in the past. Okay. And it's so interesting. I've nowhere I've ever read, ever known, but you do accumulate karma. It's not just all bad karma. Okay?
No, that's true. Yeah.
You know, we talk about karma, but I always talked about it and sort of implied it was something that's going to come back and smack you. Okay. But you think about it, there is good karma too. Okay. I mean, you help people without any ulterior motive, or you spontaneously help people. I mean, that must be good karma, I think. And
That's a really fascinating context, isn't it?
Isn't it? It really is. What comes to mind for you when you think about good karma, how it comes back?
Yeah, well, that's something, as you say. I mean, we tend to be focused on the negative, don't we? You know, Absolutely. It's always about, how do I eradicate all this bad karma that's built up and that. But so it's probably not about good and bad. It's probably just about, how do I consume this karma?
Yes, that's exactly it. Yeah. And I think definitely one thing would be also trust. Okay, trust in the plan, in God's plan. Trust in God's plan. Okay, he's and I think that trust will probably also attract.
Kind of makes sense, because I've heard Sadhguru often talk, and he says, he sort of says things like, it's the gurus who have the biggest karmic load. But he didn't categorize it as good or bad. He just said the biggest karmic load.
Yeah, that's interesting. Sure, because it would be good, because he's helping people, he's teaching people, he's healing people.
He says they have tremendous karma. So don't he always says, don't think that we don't have our own own issues with karma. So it's not a karma-free zone.
But somehow we seem to have thought perhaps it was,
Well, I think that's part of the misconception around so many things, isn't it? Even like with enlightenment, people think that, it's nirvana and everything about your life is blissful. Well, that's not the case. Just look at Christ.
Couldn't be worse. Couldn't be worse. Hectic.
That's fascinating.
Yes, it is. It is. So, I think taking me time is definitely asking the question, and believing in the cycles that one cycle ends, another cycle begins, and doors will open and doors will close. Doors will open.
I think so too. And it's also being having an openness to be aware of change as well, I guess. I guess what I had in mind is, like, with all of this research that I've been doing virtually on a daily basis now into the crypto world. As to the incredible opportunities that are available there through that technology, and it's such a rapidly evolving space. It's quite incredible.
I mean, between the time we spoke on Wednesday and now, it like crashed the currency, and then it's gone back up again.
But in many respects, though, like with some of the analysts that I've been following, they sort of say, well, that's a good thing. It's a good thing, because what it means is that crypto is viewed with the same sort of risk profile as the other markets.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so, and if it wasn't, then that would be something that you should be concerned about, you know, because when you look at when you look at the how the cryptos are sort of the various types of them are working, you know, like the analogy is that, you know, Bitcoin is like gold, the equivalent to gold, so it's a store of value. Whereas Ethereum, the analogy there is it's like oil, you know, it's like a commodity. And when you sort of map, you know, the movements of the markets and precious metals and things like that, crypto is now sort of following those sorts of trends.
Right.
But it's still early days in the sense that, I mean, there's a huge amount of money being tipped into crypto now, predominantly with the large institutional investors. But it's the exciting thing about it for me, though, is it's probably, you know, one of the first times in human history, in a broad sense, that there's genuine innovation within the financial system.
Right.
And that sort of statement, you know, you might think, oh, well, you know, how does that affect me? Because the existing financial system I have no impact on at all. You know, I'm blowing around like a piece of fluff in the current financial system.
Like,
you know?
we all are. Yeah.
Yeah. But with the advent of crypto and blockchains and all of those technologies around that, smart contracts and so on, it's enabled anyone to access it. So to give you an idea, like, you know, part of the blockchain system is this thing called NFTs, so non-fungible tokens. And the big focus on that at the moment seems to be relating to games, you know, so the big change with, you know, what you and I would probably characterize as video games, is that if you look at the size of the market in that globally now, like we're talking, you know, hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
and leading into the metaverse as well.
And leading into the metaverse as well. Interestingly, not so much the Facebook metaverse, but there's lots of other metaverse there.
Yes, yeah.
And driven by principles that were by the original architect and picked up and run with by many developers around this issue of transparency, trust, in the sense that it takes people out of the equation, you know, because the blockchain, once something is created in the blockchain, it can never go away.
Yeah.
And it can't be modified. The only way to modify it is just to put another version of that in the blockchain. So you can't go back and change something, which is pretty fundamental. It's largely secure, certainly more secure than the current system, where, you know, you hand over a piece of plastic to someone at the other side of a counter who you don't really know, you know, what they're taking and what they're, you know, which is really quite elementary in many respects, you know, as to how transactions occur versus how they occur on the blockchain. But the other aspect of it is in terms of accessibility. Anyone can access it, and anyone can earn from it. So give you an example, with the early NFTs, these non-fungible tokens. So basically they can be either like a piece of art, they can be an audio file or a video file. So it could be like, music or poetry or anything. And it can also be a domain as well. So you can have like, Michael Plumstead.eth. So you can sort of, create that as an NFT and sell it. Now, the revenue opportunities out of that are quite remarkable because, for example, you can turn your artwork that you've got into an NFT and have it put on the blockchain.
Mhm.
And you can sell that artwork as an NFT, either as a rare one of one token, or as one of a collection, or you can do 50 of one, or whatever you choose to do. Now, so to do that, the value that's attached to it comes from it being rare and unique. And there's a range of ways that you can go onto some of the NFT marketplaces. There's the biggest marketplace is called OpenSea. So OpenSea.io is the domain, and you can see all of this art that's, and video and all sorts of stuff there that's been created as a non-fungible token. Now, the big driver of those NFTs are things in games. So, like characters and so on in games. But now the sports stars are getting into it. So NFTs are like the new baseball card or the football card, the collector cards.
Yeah.
And even the rock bands and musicians and stuff like that are creating NFTs around things that was previously something that was collectible relating to their activities as well.
So what do people buy them with cryptocurrency?
They sure do.
Okay.
They sure do.
Okay.
So the big notable ones there at the moment, because they were like some of the first ones, there's this one called the Bored Ape Yacht Club. And basically it's 10,000 pieces of, and I use the term loosely, art. And basically it's just a drawing of an ape, and each of them are different, and one might be smoking a cigarette, one might have a mohawk, one might have wearing a hat, whatever. Now, they're unique, and for a whole range of reasons, they are very highly sought after.
Now, just stop there for a minute. If let's say I uploaded a piece of art, okay, and somebody bought it, what's stopping me from uploading the identical piece of art again?
Well, you could do it in the sense that, well, it wouldn't be identical, because the original would have a digital signature to it which says this is one of one.
Yeah.
If you tried to upload another one and sort of said, oh, here's the same, well, in the first instance, you wouldn't do it because you would want it to change it. So what you might do is, and there's plenty of programs around, you might turn that piece of art that you've done. So say, for example, it's the one that's up there, the Tree of Life that you did.
Yeah.
So you might get an image of that and upload it and put a smart contract behind it, to prove its authenticity, the fact that you created it.
Right.
And so on. Now you might put up another one, which is that same painting, but it might, through digital manipulation, might look like a watercolor. And you might put up a third one, which might look like it's done, as a in the theme of like Monet,
Yeah.
with that style, like almost like a chalk drawing sort of thing. And so there's lots and lots of ways that you could manipulate that image.
But what before do you upload the image? Is that how you upload it
Yeah,
into that?
So basically where it goes is through the marketplace, in effect.
Yeah.
You upload it into, so for example, into OpenSea.
Yeah.
And in OpenSea, you get it minted as a token on the Ethereum blockchain or the Polygon blockchain, which is a better way to go because there's low or no fees associated with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, when you create those tokens, you can also say that every time that piece of art is sold in the future,
yeah,
you also get paid a royalty out of that too, because it can't be changed. It's there for eternity.
Okay.
Now, to give you a bit of a rundown, like this Bored Ape Yacht Club, okay?
Yeah.
And it's entrepreneurism and capitalism and all sorts of things, all sorts of isms mixed in there. So essentially it was these four guys, okay, four developers. And the way that they referred to each other was as apes. So, my brother ape Michael and my brother ape Peter and blah, blah, blah. Now, these guys are, because of the nature of that space, allegedly billionaires in their own right, each of them. Now, they created this thing called the Bored Ape Yacht Club as a meeting place for billionaires in the metaverse.
Right.
So to join the club, you have to buy one of their tokens, which is one of the apes. And they say on their website that the purchase price for an ape is 0.8 of an ETH, which in the current, where it's at the moment in terms of US dollars is about $2,000 US.
Yeah.
Now, to buy one of these apes, you have to go onto OpenSea because that's pretty much the only place that you can buy them, to get your membership card, so to speak. And the current going rate for them is, I don't know, between 150 and 200 or 300 ETH, which means they're up, in the hundreds of thousands of US dollars.
Yeah.
And there's 10,000 of them, mind you. So it gives you an idea of the sort of money slopping around. Now, they, being IT guys, that's one thing you learn very quickly is everyone has to have a roadmap. So your vision and what are your milestones and where am I going?
Right.
Which really appealed to me because that's what we've been doing all of our life. And it's, for a lot of people, it's not something that comes to them intuitively, particularly creating a compelling vision. So their vision for the yacht club was to enable people to buy memberships to go into this club via their website, the boredapeyachtclub.com, I think it is. And in that website, there, the members area, you can go in there and they have what they call as the bathroom. Now, the bathroom is basically a graffiti board. So the way that they've structured the graffiti board is you can go on there and put something on the graffiti board once every 15 minutes. And it doesn't say, but I'm guessing that you have to pay for the privilege to do that, I'm guessing. And then they also say there's going to be future member benefits, down the track that we're working on. Well, they don't say what they are. But they also, as part of the monetization of it, they also have merchandise, typically T-shirts and hoodies, which have got the little Bored Ape Yacht Club logo just up on the right-hand side there. And there's a couple of other things that they're talking about doing in terms of creating a game for the Bored Apes and stuff like that. So these four guys, for whom money is not an object anyway, have all of a sudden created, you know, an extremely, lucrative arrangement there just through what they've done, and it's also been replicated with, there's crypto kitties, where there's basically they're just like a pencil drawing of a cat, but this one might be yellow and this one might be red and this one might have a hat on and this one might have a ponytail and blah blah blah. And there's another one called punks, which are just highly pixelated images of, like gangsters and stuff like that. Now, they're just examples of millennial thinking of something that's cool, and all of a sudden people saw value in them and they could demonstrate that they were provably rare, is the language that they use, because there's only one of these that exists. And they can prove that it's only one of.
But just coming back to that and my original question and what you're saying now, is there some means of the system actually identifying that you haven't put it up a unique thing, but the exact same, not something that's similar, but the actual picture itself, is you put it up a second time and call it unique?
Yeah, but it wouldn't be though, because it could be demonstrated that on the blockchain that it already existed.
But does the blockchain then sort of able to, has it got its fingers, has that painting, besides the registration and so on, has it got like a fingerprint that can be identified?
Yeah, it's got a unique digital signature.
Unique digital signature because of what it is. And the only way that you can change it is by changing something very small to make it something else, like a different color, just in a spot. Yeah. Okay, but you can't upload the identical picture twice and want to make it as unique.
No.
Okay.
So,
sorry, just one more question along that line. So if you don't want it as unique, let's say, can you say there are 6 of them? And then you register a limited number of 6. Yeah,
just like artists do now. There's, this is number 42 of 200.
Yeah, but they're all different, isn't it? Or are you talking about prints?
Well, yeah, prints are the same, but there might be a limited number of them.
Yeah.
But they're still unique in the sense that there's only 142.
Yeah, but the system can recognize it. That's what I'm saying. The blockchain.
Yeah, because it's got the unique digital signature, which is part of that security and that uniqueness.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I interrupted you, but
so basically, this is the blockchain says, don't take Michael's word for it. Come and have a look. And there'll only be one because of that digital signature.
Okay.
So in this Web3, the design principles by the original creators has been such that it's accessible to anyone.
Yeah.
And so what you're seeing there when you sort of start to do some research in there is that certain blockchains, by their very nature, like Bitcoin, for example, there is no owner of it. It's just distributed across a global network. So you can't go and say, oh, see, Michael Plumstead, he's the executive director of Bitcoin. There is no such person. Of Ethereum, there is a CEO, but Ethereum is a network as such because it's like a blockchain technology. So it's different than what Bitcoin is, whereas Bitcoin's like gold, and they're mined differently and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff behind it, but the interesting thing about, as I keep on coming back to, the interesting thing about the metaverse is it's there for everyone. It's accessible for everyone. So when things are being developed on the blockchain, it in effect takes out the middle person. So if you wanted to make a payment to me or vice versa, I can just say, well, give me the address of your wallet, Michael, and I'll lodge those crypto funds in there for you. So you don't need to go through a bank.
Right.
You don't need to go through an intermediary. It's just peer-to-peer transactions. And because of the smart contract technology, the same thing will apply to, say, for example, I say to you, oh, Michael, I want to buy your house. You don't need an agent, you don't need a lawyer, you don't need a lender, you don't need any of those people because it's peer-to-peer based.
Okay.
Now, as you can imagine, a lot of the big end of town and governments in particular have a major problem with that.
Yeah.
Because they lose control.
Yeah.
So
then
there was
the owner of the houses.
Well, they can still see who the owner of the house is because it's transparent. But I can just sell it to you without having to do anything with them because it's peer-to-peer based. So as long as I know my wallet address and I know your wallet address, I can transfer those funds to you directly. And depending on the chain I do it on, it could be either anonymously or open and transparent. Now, there was a paper released by the US Federal Reserve last week discussing the idea of a central bank digital currency, the CBDC. So in the US, they were still saying, well, maybe we need to make the US dollar a central bank crypto. But the downside with that is it's not a cryptocurrency in the sense that it's open and transparent. It's controlled by a central bank. So like with Bitcoin, there's only 42 million of them ever. The trouble with central banks is they just print money whenever they feel like it.
Yeah, yeah.
And you pay it back for the rest of your life and probably the life of your children as well. So there's a lot going on in that space there because it's really quite transformative in the sense that it has the potential to become a genuine global currency. Now, the US dollar is kind of de facto that to a certain extent at the moment, but
it could go bankrupt.
And it's not open and transparent because it's subject to whatever the government of the day decides and the Federal Reserve and all that sort of stuff, you know. So it's a fascinating thing, and in many respects, when you look at that digital distributionism stuff that we talked about some time ago, and you look at the evolution of some of those aspects, you know, right from early marketplaces, which were ironically peer-to-peer transactions, and why money was originally created, because, you know, you wanted to buy some of my fish and I had plenty of fish to sell, but I also needed something that I could store value in so I could go and buy other things with the value of my fish. So, but as you look back at that work that we did then and the work of Rushkoff and others there, each major change that went along was always driven by governments and corporations wanting to have control. So when you look at the metaverse, for example, as to where the development money is going at the moment, both Google and Facebook are trying to develop their own metaverse space aimed at like games and stuff like that. But it's still controlled by a corporate entity.
Yeah, and Microsoft also put a lot of money into it.
And Microsoft also. And that's why when you look at some of these other players in that crypto space and in the metaverse, where it's open and distributed, so not controlled by anyone, only the people that are in it, they seem to get a lot more traction than these other ones. So you can imagine that there's lots of black hat forces at work doing their darndest to undermine a lot of this. And there's lots of things happening, in terms of the development and how it's working and new innovations and ironically, even when you go back to the original creation of Bitcoin, the name that they put associated with it as the person who developed it is Satoshi Nakamoto, I think it is. So it's like a Japanese name. But no one knows who that person ever was or is, or where this person, or whether it's a group of people, or like no one knows.
Right.
So, and as I said, when you look at the original design characteristics, they sort of said, well, one of the big issues at the moment with the financial system is lack of trust and lack of transparency in that. So that's what guided the design of the crypto space. So, and some of the threats to it, of course, when we say threats, I suppose the unknowns to it is what role and what direction like quantum computing might have on it, for example. And whether some governments try and outlaw it, which is going to be a very, very difficult thing for them to do, because in effect they'd have to try and shut it down within their own sovereign borders, and that's in effect like turning the internet off.
Right.
So even countries like China and Russia and so on, it's extremely hard for them to control it because of its distributed nature. It's distributed, through networks all over the globe. So, there's lots of really interesting things about it. So the more research I do on it, the more excited I get about it, because for me, it has just so many of those design principles that we talked about through that digital distribution in terms of accessibility and security and not being manipulated or taxed along the way and all that sort of stuff. So yeah. So the thing is, for me, when I look at it, I just sort of like my head just buzzes with ideas, in terms of well, what's possible here.
Right. Fantastic. Fantastic. I think it's so great that in your year 9, you really start in a whole new dimension, a whole new thought pattern, a whole new learning. Okay, it's fantastic.
And that's the liberation that's associated with it, because, like, for example, like I could, go and restore a 200-year-old chair.
Yeah.
And in this dimension, the only people who get to know about it is people who I might be able to reach through social media or a database or something like that.
Yeah.
Whereas if you converted it to an image and put it into an NFT, then it gains a whole new life in a different dimension.
Absolutely. So you wouldn't stop restoring, okay, because you'd have a unique chair there, okay.
Well, and this is the thing that gets my juices flowing too, is because to use your artwork, you can prove, like, the provably rare context is you can say, I created this painting, and you can prove that you created the painting. And from that painting, you created an NFT and had it minted on the blockchain. So that's a really different process than someone who just gets an interesting photograph and turns it into an NFT, because it wasn't necessarily their work. All they've done is just converted a photograph or.
Oh, so somebody else can take
Mm.
yours. And yeah. Okay.
Mm.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting.
So the possibility there for artists and, you know, and others and sports people and so on is it can put them directly in touch with a community they develop.
Mm.
And if it's provably rare, and that's a concept that you have to keep on ricocheting around in your head, in the sense that you created it.
Yeah.
And I don't mean just the digital image, but you created, in your case, the original image.
Yeah.
Then there is no other like it.
Mm.
There is no other like it. Now that image up there is one of one. Sure, you can see those types of images elsewhere, but you can prove that you painted it. And if we turn it into an NFT, then you can prove that it's a unique creation.
Yeah. That's exciting.
I think it's a whole new world, and one
Yeah.
that I have to put my hand on my heart and say, when I first looked at it, I thought, oh, I'm very skeptical about this. This looks like it's all nonsense. This is
But you still were driven to take the course.
but when you get in there and look at the why, when you apply
Yeah.
the Plumstead methodology to it and say, why is this so?
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, a whole panorama opens.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic, man. Yeah.
And the terms and that they use in there, you know, like you mine a coin, you know, and you think, oh, well, this is all subject to manipulation, but it's not. It's not, because it's not controlled by a small number of individuals. It's just there on the global network. And
Yeah.
the irony of it is like, you know, the gold that we mine on the planet, it's a finite resource. And with all of the mining activity, the gold reserves only increase by about 2.5% a year. And it's the same with Bitcoin. It's a finite resource. There's only 41 million of them.
Yeah.
And the way the mining activity works, it can only grow by about 2 to 2.5% a year.
Right. Right.
And that's one of the reasons that it's viewed as the digital gold, digital equivalent of gold, you know, so.
So when are you going to take your first photograph? Well, you've taken lots of photographs of your artwork, of your restorations and things. So when are you going to do your first, what did you call it? I was going to say EFT, but it's not an EFT.
NFT, non-fungible token.
Yeah, let me write that down.
Well, that's the interesting thing, because the discipline and the skill set that you and I have is to sit back for a moment and say, okay, what's our vision for this? And what's our roadmap?
Yeah.
So there's no point just putting a whole lot, I don't think. People are doing that, but I don't think just putting a whole lot of images up there does anything. You need to have a unique proposition. And you can say, you know, like, you know, my vision, you know, that drives the creation of this artwork is, you know, for the advancement of human well-being. And the way that I do this is da, 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 you know, and you can embed all of that vision and mission and your values in a smart contract behind the image on the blockchain.
Okay.
Which also adds to its
value.
Its value and provable rareness. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So, like, if you use like the Bored Ape Yacht Club, you know, their vision was, you know, as a meeting place for billionaires.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which ironically is driven by money. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Step yourself outside of that and talk about, you know, human well-being. It's a different value set altogether, different value proposition altogether.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's so exciting.
Yes, it is. The way you've described it today is really very exciting. You've certainly turned my juices on. It's amazing. I want to hear more, you know. So treat me like a grade one and send me something basic and simple that I can start, you know, getting my head around to understand or an awareness.
Well, I guess, you know, at our age and experience, you know, you think about all of your business training and, you know, how important it was us to have, you know, the what and the why and those sorts of things. Those skills are just so important in the development of whatever you do on the blockchain. Because you can put in rubbish you want to up there.
I mean, take for example, let me just, sorry, you carry on. I was just going to blow my nose again. I don't know why I've got nasal issues since I've woken up this afternoon.
Well, as I said, you know, like having the roadmap, in my view, is such a critical element. Because it's not a static thing. It's not like, you know, and it's something that, you know, that continues to evolve, and you can add value to the proposition over time based on milestones and new technologies and new offerings and virtual reality and artificial intelligence and all of this stuff. You don't need any special programming skills. Like, anyone can do it.
Right.
You know, so it's accessible to anyone.
So, but what I was going to say before I blew my nose, and that was one of the things right now at this moment, I'm bringing back a business class. If you remember, back in sort of July, August last year, I was doing on Get Set Up and so on, and so I'm busy. I only have to do the class on Friday next week, so I'm looking at it again, and you know, sort of calling on my history and experience. As are you saying we do the same thing if we setting up? We're looking at, you know, do we look, for example, one of the things? Yeah, we answer the what and the why, but also one of the things is looking for a niche market. Okay.
Well, see, this is the thing, you know, like with our traditional business training, you know, a big chunk of that business plan was dedicated to who's my competitors and how can I beat them or destroy them or obliterate them. Or on the blockchain, you don't need to worry about any of that. Your focus is on how do I ensure that this is provably rare and unique, and then I can get a digital signature attached to it. So it's not about beating anyone.
But is it about thinking about who your market is? Do you do any marketing on, you know?
Well, you build a community. You build a community.
Okay, within the blockchain.
Well, through social media and websites and.
Oh, okay. So not in the virtual world.
Well, it kind of is.
So, right, I guess a website's a virtual world, but you know what I mean. Okay, yeah. So, but not the metaverse itself. Maybe that's a better word.
Yeah, but so you're not trying to beat anyone. You're just trying to creatively develop a community.
Now, I can understand that. Okay.
And how do you creatively develop a community? Well, you deliver something to them which is meaningful and of value.
But you're not to them. They're going to find you. That's what I'm getting to, the marketing point. You know, do you have to, like you do in our world, that you say, well, you know, if I'm selling breastfeeding bras, you know, I'm going to be selling to mothers who are breastfeeding or going to be breastfeeding.
Mothers and potential mothers, yeah.
Yeah. Now, is it the same thing? Would you look at who your market is? Would that be part of your plan?
I would just substitute the word market for community.
Okay. Your community plan. You'd have to just enlarge on that a little bit.
Well, you're not trying to exploit a market. It's in one sense almost the opposite. You're trying to build a community of interest.
Yeah, yeah. And then the interest will find you. You don't find the community.
Well, yeah, yeah, 6 of one, half a dozen the other, in the sense that
You still do. You're going to get people to, through social media, let's say, Facebook and your website and so on, make people aware that to click here.
Basically, it's like, for example, like with Get Set Up.
Yeah.
You develop a community of followers based on the content that you're providing. Yeah. And the content that you're providing is what you're creating. There's a uniqueness around that. It's the content, it's how you deliver it, it's why you deliver it, it's all of those things. If I went on to Get Set Up and just read out stuff, do you think I'd get much of a following?
Okay, but the following there is through, let's call it the first digital world. Okay. And so you'd still make an awareness through that world. Okay.
And the world that and the second digital world as well.
Okay. The second digital world is like the metaverse.
No, that's the third digital world.
Okay. So the blockchain, on the blockchain itself.
Yeah. So the second digital world is video. That I can sit in my lounge room or office in Perth and talk to someone in Philadelphia and in London and in Mumbai, all at the same time. Okay,
like Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay, you call that the second. Okay, so one is a flat, is a one dimension. The video is perhaps two-dimensional. Okay.
Yeah, and in Web3, the new version of Get Set Up will probably where you will have virtual reality goggles on, and you can be in a classroom, or you can be leading a discussion on the beachside, or a walk through a forest, or in a hot air balloon, and it's a real experience for everyone involved.
Okay. Yeah. And lecturing them on how to start a business.
Yeah. A digital distribution business.
Yeah. Yeah.
No sleep for you tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. So interesting.
Well, we've gone over time.
Yeah, no, it's been really good though. Really good.
So stretch your mind around that. Stretch your mind around that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But please feel free just to, because you're doing it on a daily basis, you're coming across little bits of information or websites or, Facebooks or Instagrams, things that as you trust. Okay, you think, well, that's genuine information. Please send it on to me so that
yeah, sure. Yeah.
I can just never ever want to be able to keep up with your training, but just to get my head around it and to see as a user, let's say, in the future how I can contribute to you and my conversation about how to move forward with it. So try and please do that.
And I think that's the thing, and it also puts a different context around cryptocurrency, where, like with gaming, for example, to sort of close on this sort of point, one of the big concepts in gaming now is earn as you play.
Right.
So as you go through and you gather resources and things that you progress through the parts of these games, in Web 2, it was you can only use those resources in the game. In Web 3, because they're crypto, you can use those resources to go and buy groceries if you wanted to, or in another game, or in another sandbox.
Yeah.
So that's the new currency.
Mm. Let's check with my son John, who does. His career is gaming and teaching people gaming. So let's find out.
Have a chat to him about Web3 in the sandbox.
In the sandbox. Let me write that down. If that's what
Well, that's one of the big gaming areas. They call it the sandbox.
yeah.
Get him to tell you about that.
Okay.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling a bit better. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Great. Great. No, it is absolutely. And I'm now also inclined not only to go and do a little bit of artwork as well. I want to go also back to looking at that life cycle things as well, and see what just comes up. Why was it given to me? Why did it suddenly awaken itself now at this stage in my life? So we'll see all that too. But I'm going to give myself the space, some me time.
Exactly.
Okay, Dad.
Okay. Take care.
See you Wednesday. Bye.
Wednesday. Yep. Okay. Bye.
Okay. Bye.